you're looking better this evening. Forgot to put these in the surgery. It's the doctor's birthday. Red roses. I'll tell you something. I didn't send them. More flowers. Another of your admirers. I sometimes wonder about this famous doctor-patient relationship, darling. That makes 3 bunches of flowers, a keyring for the right make of car, and 5 birthday cards. Oh, life begins at 50.
What?
Oh, someone's even serenading you.
How many more patients have I got?
Oh, half a dozen.
1 year older, how much wiser.
For God's sake, turn that damned row off.
The music? Well, it was your idea for soothing the minds of your malingerers.
I said turn it off.
The song won't hurt the patients. Francis, you look whacked. You are going to take tonight off, aren't you?
I told you I can't. I promised to look into the old age pensions, and I've got to speak to that council about conditions down.
Francis, look, you've got to take some time off.
That's the last time, Jessie. Will you stop trying to rearrange?
Look at yourself. You're working yourself into the ground again, and you know what happened.
Stop clacking over me and turn that damned row off as I asked you.
Make a bonfire.
Francis, please listen to me.
Look, will you please get out and let me get on with my surgery?
You've had one breakdown. Do you want another?
For God's sake, shut up and get out.
Feeling yourself again. I'm afraid the doctor's working rather slow tonight, but he'll buzz in a minute.
This is the coroner's court?
Yes.
Why did you want me to meet you here?
There's an inquest on Dr. Francis Spring.
Who?
The Angel of South London, as the newspaper label puts it. A much-loved GP who committed suicide 2 days ago.
What about it? What have you discovered now?
If it hadn't been for a chance remark a man made yesterday, I'd never have got onto it.
And to what?
I was interviewing this man for a drug company job. He's a qualified doctor and he's been doing emergency service work. In the past month, he's had to stand in for no fewer than 5 doctors, all of whom killed themselves. Come over here. Look at these. 14 other suicides and all doctors.
Perhaps it's just a coincidence.
Yeah, you remember those notes Val Randolph left in his university study?
For the science fiction book he never finished.
His notes mentioned an attack against the medical profession. Well, this could be it. Don't you see? Doctors are vital men in their communities. Just imagine the effect their suicides would have on thousands of patients.
You can't organize a wave of suicide. You don't think they were really murdered, do you?
I don't know, but if there is a link, we've got to find it. This could be another well-aimed attack against society by our Undermind
But through this whole
friends.
thing, I just about had it.
Well, I thought we ought to take a closer look.
So I'm afraid I can't. I've got to meet an old friend.
You mean you're not going to listen in on the inquest with me?
I told you, Drew, I've got a date.
What's the matter with you?
Nothing. I'll see you later. 6 o'clock?
All right.
And what on earth's come over you? Do you honestly expect me to believe all this guff about this Undermind thing? Little green men from outer space hiding up the chimney and putting a hex on people. I mean, haven't they heard about our new immigration laws?
John, please. They're people who've been brainwashed.
Because of their unusual hearing.
Yes, Frank was one of them.
Isn't it about time you stopped going over all that? Look, you're a normal, healthy young girl, and you turn up after heaven knows how long with this fantastic story and looking like death. What's happened to you?
John, I'm frightened. I never knew what real evil was until now. Drew may be right about the doctors. I'm supposed to help Drew and try... Look, please, John, I can't go on, not anymore.
We're going to have to do something about you, Anne. If you go on like...
What do you want me to do? Take a tonic? I don't know who else to go to. Who's going to believe me if you don't? We can't go on tackling this thing on our own. At least I can't. And besides...
What?
Everywhere I look, I think I see them.
These, Undermind people, you mean?
No, sometimes I even become convinced I'm being followed.
Well, it's a typical symptom.
I'm certain of it. How can I run into a police station and tell them that? Now look at these loony women, they'd say.
Well, I'll help you if I can. I'll be back in a minute.
Don't go, please.
I'm only going to make a phone call, and it's right there. Dr. Christian, please. This is Dr. Rossley, John Rossley.
But of course I remember you, Dr. Rossley. What can I do for you? I see. She imagines what? Interesting.
Look, she's an old friend and she obviously needs your kind of help. Could you fit in a session fairly soon? Tomorrow.
Oh, what's her name? Mrs. Anne Harriet. You'd better give me her address in case my secretary's booked another patient. Yes, but for the moment we'll make it 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, that's fine. Thank you, Doctor. Yes, we must meet soon. Bye. Anne, I've made an appointment for you.
With?
Dr. Hugh Christian of the Welbeck Psychiatric Clinic. He's a good man. I once studied under him myself.
I'm not seeing a psychiatrist.
Now listen, the clinic's got several top people in the field, and I should say Christian's the man to go to.
You think I'm crazy too, don't you?
There's no harm in some good, straight advice. Why don't you just relax for the next 24 hours, do something different, get some fresh air? Tell you what, I'll look you up myself this evening to see how you're getting on.
Look, John.
And don't worry. This sort of fantasy can occur to anybody, especially if you're run down and depressed.
John, if you're going to help me, the first thing you have to do is to believe me.
Anne? At last. I thought you said 6 o'clock. Oh, Dr. Spring had a psychiatric case history. Came out in the coroner's court. But I'm sure there's more to it. I've arranged for transcripts of other suicide inquests.
Drew!
Anne, what in God's name's happened?
There's a man. Sprang at me as I was parking the car.
Well, who was it?
I don't know. I think I've been followed for a couple of days now.
Well, why in heaven's name didn't you tell me?
After I left John,
John?
I went home, but I couldn't stand the silence. So I
Who's
drove
John?
around, but look, Drew, I had to get away on my own just for a while.
Well, I've been waiting 2 hours for you, wondering what the hell had happened.
Well, now you know, don't you? I had to talk to someone.
Talk? What about Undermind? Are you crazy? Who to? This John?
Didn't believe me anyway.
Have you gone out of your mind? Haven't you learned? Trust no one. We tried that, remember? Well, these people don't go around with badges on their arms, you know. If we want to go sticking our necks out, let's just go around telling every Tom, Dick and Harry.
Can't you see, two of us, we've got no chance.
Our only chance of achieving anything is by concealment.
Concealment! Dr. Bide, you suspect everybody now, and you're in shadow!
Relax.
You must be Drew Herriot.
Yes?
I'm John Rossley. I'd like to see Anne for a minute.
Oh.
May I come in?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Thank you.
John?
Well, I promised I'd look in to see how you were getting... Anne, what's happened? Are you all right?
Not that you believe it.
What?
I was attacked in the car park.
Attacked? Is this true?
Look, I suppose you think I imagined all this too.
No, I don't. Let me have a look at you.
No, I'm all right.
Look, if there is anything I can do to help...
Tell him, Drew.
No, thank you.
Look, Drew, John and I have known each other since we were babies. He couldn't possibly be an Undermind. He's a doctor and a good one. He could probably help us look into the suicides among his colleagues.
All right. Here's one suicide case I followed up. Dr. Francis Spring.
Hello? Oh, yes, Mrs. Harris. No, I'm afraid there won't be any surgery tomorrow either. I'm trying to get a replacement, but I'm afraid it isn't easy. Of course not. Goodbye.
All of these suicides had a psychiatric history.
Psychotics or not, they're all doctors, and that's a correlation, to put it in medical terms.
Yes, it is.
You'll help?
Frankly, it does look as if there's something here that's beyond coincidence. Some other cause. Maybe there's a way of doing some closer research into Spring's case. Interesting man, Francis Spring.
You knew him.
Only by name. His executors may stick in a locum while they put his practice up for sale. And locums right now are really scarce. They prefer ship's jobs, summer cruises, stuff like that. That gives me an idea. May I?
Go ahead.
All ready for battle?
You have tea first?
Yes, thanks. Did he always have such a busy list?
Oh, always. They knew, you know, that he'd come at the drop of a hat, and... oh, people play on it. Particularly the old ones. They like company mainly, you know, reassurance. That last night he was going to talk to some pensioners. Oh, never mind, it was his birthday, and that I'd cooked him a surprise.
His birthday?
Oh, if only he'd taken more care of his health, but he'd coddle someone with hiccups as if they were at death's door and wear himself out in the process. Me too, for that matter.
Yes, doctors' wives are often the real angels.
Oh, not me. Knowing what made him touchy and depressed didn't help, I still couldn't take his tantrums. If I had, he wouldn't be gone.
Oh. Now, that's nonsense.
We flew into one of those terrible moods. It was worse than I'd ever seen him, and I told him to clear out. He shut me out, and I went, and we needed me. I'm sorry. You see, there was no one to tell.
That's all right.
The inquest, well, what can you say? I mean, you can't drag all that in. You can only say he seemed depressed.
Driven 50 miles from one coroner's court to another. It's a grim way to spend a day. Don't tell me you found another suicide inquest at this court.
Yes, a factory medical officer who killed himself 3 weeks ago. How about you? Any more inquest reports?
So I managed to collect 3. There's a GP in Wimbledon, obstetrician at a Chelsea hospital, and a woman doctor at Enfield. Threw herself under a train. Drew, I've been thinking, if there isn't any visible type, apart from the fact that they're all doctors, then it's
But
possible
there is. Their mental history. Here it is again. Overwork and worry. This doctor underwent analysis. Now, this one had a nervous breakdown 2 years ago.
No, I meant something more recently than that. Look, suppose there was a caller at the surgery in each case, somebody pretending to be a patient.
No, I doubt it. In most cases, the suicides followed sudden flare-ups when the person was otherwise quite happy. Well, the factory doctor, for instance, was even having a party for his birthday.
What's the matter?
There's a third common factor. And it's right here.
Who are you? What is this, Dr. Rossley? Does she know something more about Francis' death?
Mrs. Herriot is an old friend of mine. Mrs. Spring, I think you ought to know that your husband was only one of a number of doctors who've recently taken their own lives.
And it seems they all had birthdays around the time it happened.
Oh,
I believe you mentioned it was also Dr. Spring's birthday.
yes, it was.
Can you remember anything more about the day?
Please, I've been through all that at the inquest.
Yes, I know, but there might have been something you missed out.
No, it was just an ordinary day, except, of course, he had a few presents and some birthday cards. Of course, I've thrown those
Hello.
away now, but, well, nothing unusual happened.
Right. That was true. Mrs. Spring, music.
Music? What about it?
When your husband broke down, was the music playing by any chance?
As a matter of fact, yes, there was, but what on earth has that to do with it?
What record was playing at the time?
Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, birthdays. Can you remember what it looked like?
It was blue and red, and it's something about swing along for another year on the outside of the cover.
This one?
I think that was the same one.
Would you remember the song if you heard it again?
I think so.
One year older, how much wiser this should be your...
Mr. Herriot, surely you aren't suggesting that this greetings record is the reason why Francis killed himself?
Well, all I know, Mrs. Spring, is several of the other doctors I've checked on so far, before they committed suicide, received a similar record.
Take what's left and throw away. Other worries, other troubles, make a bonfire of them, say time is fleeting, must love waits will make this.
But the effect it has on me is to want to switch it up.
It's not exactly hit parade material. Well, now you've had a chance to study the inquest reports. What about the medical evidence?
I've discovered one thing. There's a strong suggestion they may all have been suffering from the same symptom.
What sort of symptom?
It's a particular psychiatric condition known as the Bennett-Sloan syndrome. It's a kind of mental spiral and could make people more than ordinarily susceptible to certain influences.
Rhythms? Sounds specially composed to trigger the right mood?
Suicidal mood?
I don't know. I'd like to check on it with someone who's a specialist in the subject.
Who's that?
Dr. Hugh Christian at the clinic. The man I arranged for you to see, Anne, when I made the wrong diagnosis.
This must be the key. We know it was posted to at least 10 other doctors. Right, next. Evie Stroud. Right, love, nothing fancy. Just imagine you got to back in and sing it plain, sweet and sincere. How do you take you through it first?
Why should I tell you, you must guess, the bearer of this tenderness, the tongue-tied one who thinks of you, dare not say it, though it's true, lies awake and dreams one day. A miracle will make you say, you have a secret love like mine, my shining, shining Valentine.
Thought you'd like to see the setup.
Good idea.
We do minor pop groups, jingles, children's records.
And greetings?
Yeah, say it with the song. It's an expanding business.
So I've heard.
Your advertising agency use a lot of jingles?
I know we're small like you are, but there's a prospect of some big new accounts. I've been asked to look around. We may need more recording facilities.
Denverly at your service. Right. Allie, try another key. She sounds as if she's running up an escalator.
Why should I tell you, you must guess, the bearer of this tenderness.
Sorry about that interruption, John. I'm all yours now. What are you doing? Catching up on the psychiatric medicine you failed to learn at my lectures?
I'm reading up on the subject I came to see you about.
Oh, yes, the suicides. Sit down.
Thank you. There's at least enough to warrant looking into, don't you think?
Well, I'm afraid I don't see any coincidence. What I see is a very clear picture, characteristic. In each case you've cited, one thing sticks out a mile.
The Bennett-Sloan syndrome.
Exactly. All of these suicides occupy positions of trust, care of others, heavy emotional responsibility for human welfare. Why look further? You're a GP, eh? I thought you were going to become one of my disciples and specialize.
I changed direction. But I still keep up my interest in psychiatry. Night courses when I can afford the time. I've had a year here with your colleague at the clinic, Dr. Keene.
Well, then you must know how sensitive people tend to absorb the worries, the tragedies even, of those under their care. I've 100 cases in my files. These mental breakdowns follow a classic pattern. Extreme irritability, worsening into outbreaks of almost maniacal violence, and then...
Reaction. Black suicidal depression.
All too often fatal, I'm afraid.
Yes, but although many kinds of mental patients are resistant to suggestion, the BS syndrome cases are the reverse. Highly susceptible.
Well?
Would it be possible to devise stimuli, say music, a pattern of sound, that would set off these moods?
At will, you mean?
Yes.
I'll give you a straight opinion. I'd say it's impossible.
But in your papers, you yourself have said that there's a high instance of suicides at certain times. Festive occasions, such as Christmas. It appears most of these suicides occurred on birthdays.
I merely advanced the theory that such occasions could contribute.
And what about the effect of a certain type of music?
Well, it's true that some kinds of music can be soothing, therapeutic. In fact, they use it here at the hospital. And equally others can be disturbing, upsetting. You've studied a number of suicide cases and found music to be involved?
So it would seem.
Well, Dr. Rossley, we eat to music, we drive to it, we make love to it. Why not die to it? Are you suggesting on this basis that I've overlooked some major factor?
Well,
I've written tomes on this syndrome. And I've listened to some pretty weird music, too. But I've yet to hear anything that would drive even a psychotic over the edge.
well, I'm grateful to you for your views. Dr. Christian.
Yes?
I believe several of these doctors were under treatment from you at some time or other.
Yes, I suppose I must count them as my failures.
I wonder whether I might ask you a favor.
Certainly.
Let me look through a few of your files on these patients.
I'm sorry, that's out of the question.
But why? We're both doctors. A detailed study of such cases might help enormously, and I might be able to pinpoint a common factor that's been overlooked.
Oh, really, Dr.
I imagine your colleagues in the clinic have lent you a lot of case material for your books.
Of course, but I can't throw my files open to you. It might be different if you were qualified, and not just here with some wild theory.
Oh, well, thanks anyway. Perhaps a direct talk with one patient will help just as much.
You're seeing a patient here? In the clinic?
Yes, a survivor. A doctor who didn't quite manage to kill himself. Name of Sparksman. Right as rain now, physically anyway, after a session with a stomach pump.
Sparksman. I don't recall him.
He's one of Dr. Keene's patients. I rang Keene up and he said I could go ahead and talk to him.
Well, nothing like playing two horses in the same hospital, eh? Keene and me. You should have specialized, Dr. Rossley. Well, good luck anyway.
Thank you, Dr. Christian.
That's all, girls. We'll be in touch.
Mr. Aidens, did I?
Did you what, darling? We'll be in touch.
Oh.
Well, Mr. Elliot?
There's a pretty good Valentine about already.
There's always room for another. Well, I admit our singers aren't stars, but you can't pick and choose for the greetings card discs. They get a flat fee.
What do you use for music? For the backing, I mean.
The age of electronics. Effects. Special effects? We've got a machine that makes music at the press of a button. I feed in my own arrangements, and that's it. Instant orchestra.
I heard your swing-along record, the birthday number. Did you compose that, too?
Sure. I'll do your agency jingles if they don't want to spend a fortune.
I'll bear it in mind, but we'll probably line up the music along with the product.
Well, what do you think of that little lot, Harry?
You must be joking, Don. You've got to find somebody better than that.
Tell me where.
Girls make Valentine's Day sound like Doomsday. Why not invent an electronic singer? You do just about everything else.
Who?
Call for Mr. Harriet.
Oh, take it over there, will you?
Hello? Drew? John Rossley. I'm at the clinic. Listen, I think I'm onto something. Can you get over here straight away? Room 168, top floor. Fine.
Here are the rest of the case histories you wanted.
Excellent.
You did say Dr. Keene authorized you to have the other BS syndrome cases besides his own?
Yes, nurse, thank you.
I told you to stop it! Stop it! Stop it! That sound! I told him to shut it off. I couldn't help myself. I had to push him out.
Rossley.
For God's sake, the music! Will you shut it off?
The music, where did they play it from?
Well, it's in there.
Room 168. Get a doctor in there and call the registrar.
Are you in charge of the music?
Yes.
That record, the birthday song, why did you play it? Who told you to put it on? Where is it?
Birthday song? I don't know what you're talking about. We don't have such a record. They're all non-vocal.
Have you been off this floor for any reason?
Well, I was called to reception. I left it playing a number.
Awful business. Quite horrible. Mind you, of course, the patient can't really be held responsible. You do understand. In his condition...
That's true enough.
I should say it puts the lid on his ever-recovery now. He might just as well have gone over that balcony himself for all the good he'll be when he...
Dr.
realizes-
Christian, Dr. Rossley was murdered.
I thought we both agreed that you can't blame a mental patient for a serious accident like this.
I don't.
Dr. Rossley should never have been allowed in that room. If it had been my patient, he certainly wouldn't have been.
Someone deliberately prompted this accident, someone in this building, and it wasn't the patient.
What on earth are you talking about? Do you realize what you're saying?
Do you know what Rossley said caused these mental attacks? These suicides? A record. An ordinary little birthday greetings record.
Nonsense.
Rossley's dead directly as a result of this.
I don't understand.
Someone played a record, just like this, on the hospital relay system, and the patient went berserk. But by the time I got to the player, the record had been taken off again. Now, Rossley said you're the leading authority on this suicide syndrome that seems to apply in these cases. Will you listen carefully to this record and see if you can hear anything at all you think could make people violent?
tell me I can come to you, come to you, come to you. Tell me.
Well? Well, the rhythms are odd. And the message. Still, it's no worse than what you'd find on one of those silly cards, I suppose.
And you can detect nothing. Nothing calculated to affect a patient in any way.
I'm sorry. Absolutely nothing. I can't see how those rhythms would trigger a psychotic into killing himself, or anybody else.
You're quite sure?
Perfectly.
Mr. Freed, the doctor's ready for you now.
Well, hello, Mr. Freed, and how we've been getting on.
Not too bad, thank you, Doctor. The new therapy you've been giving me seems to be doing the trick.
Good, good. Well, then we must keep at it. Sit down. Would you like a cup of tea?
Yes, thanks.
I could do with one. It's been quite an afternoon, one way and another.
He was one of my oldest friends.
We shouldn't have let him become involved.
It was my fault.
Didn't he have a car?
Yes, why?
This was in his case. It's a map of the London Underground. And for some reason, he's ticked off several stations in the inner circle.
Why would he do that?
I don't know. It's an odd thing for him to have done.
What's in these?
Oh, he obviously managed to get hold of several case histories. Patients that were treated at the clinic for the syndrome he detected.
I wonder what else he detected before he went over that balcony.
I don't know. If only we could try out that record on one or two surviving cases, we might get some answer.
What Dr. Christian told you, it was completely harmless.
Oh, he may have been the great oracle at one time. I've got the feeling he's out of date. He's not receptive to new ideas.
True, after what's happened, how can you take a risk with another ex-patient? Apart from what it might do to a psychotic, you might get yourself killed in the process.
Anne, I think I've got it.
Hmm?
Well, that must be it. These discs came anonymously through the post to selected victims.
Who from?
I don't know, but that's why this disc is harmless. Those on sale in the shops are. Well, don't you see? There's a special disc. A killer disc.
Killer?
You've heard of subliminal advertising? How they can stick a word, a slogan on selected frames in a movie reel? Just one frame, too quick for the eye to catch. But it leaves an impression, a suggestion in the minds of an audience.
You think someone's producing a subliminal version of that record?
I'm sure of it. If only we could find the actual disc that one of those poor devils received.
Right, now, which is Anne? Over here, lovely. Ready, Harry?
I haven't had time to rehearse this.
Well, never mind the fluffs, we get the idea. Okay, Harry.
Why should I tell you? You must guess the bearer of this tenderness, the tongue-tied one who thinks of you, dare not say it, though it's true, lies awake and dreams one day. A miracle will make you say, you have a secret love like mine, my shining, shining Valentine.
Well, what do you think of this little bird?
Fine, fine. Give her a sound box, she'll be all right.
Yeah. Right, ladies, that's all. Thank you very much. Not you, darling. Anne, is it? Well, a little clearer on the words, Anne, and I think we're ready to go.
No, me?
Yeah. You settled with an agent?
Well, no, actually, I haven't.
Well, then, 20 guineas all right with you?
Look, I'll have to think about
Well,
it.
25, then it's the top for this stuff.
All right, then?
Fine. Now, you got the idea, keep it sweet like that, but the words matter. Well, we might as well go.
I'll record straight off.
Yeah, we'll give you a beat, okay?
No backing, you mean?
I'll put that in afterwards. Don't worry, it sounds great.
You say so?
Right, here we go then. Ready when you are, Sam. All right. Dry run first for the voice level. Settle you in. Right.
Why should I tell you? You must guess the bearer of this tenderness, the tongue-tied one who thinks of you. Dare not say it.
Right, got it.
Started fine. What the hell went wrong?
I'm sorry.
Nerves, lovely. What for? Now take it easy. Right, we'll try it again.
Why should I tell you? You must... I can't... I'm sorry.
Hey, what's the matter? What's wrong? Why? Oh, my life. Anne, I've been reading up on the kind of hypnotherapy they use to treat these syndrome cases. One word, the patient goes into a trance. Or a sign even, anything he's been preconditioned to. Another word, he wakes up again.
Drew, the man who attacked me. Huh? He works in the recording studio. He's their sound engineer.
Their sound engineer?
He cuts their discs.
Why should he be attacked you? How would he know about you?
There's only one reason. He must be an Undermind.
With everything to hand. Now, I've been digging in the BMA library. Rossley left a reference to an article in a science journal by a psychiatrist. It explains how recordings could be used to influence susceptible people.
Dr. Christian claimed it couldn't be done.
He's way behind the times. This man's right on the beam.
He even specifies the Bennett-Sloan syndrome.
And he talks about primitive techniques, tribal rhythms, voodoo, how they can produce all kinds of trance-like conditions. Now, suppose the birthday record music puts certain listeners in a receptive state. Subliminal impulses on the disc could then dominate their minds, force them to suicide.
And Freed would be an expert at dubbing on the impulses.
What name did you say?
The man in the recording studio, the sound engineer, Sam Freed. What is it?
Freed. Samuel.
What?
Among Rossley's notes.
John never met him.
Samuel Freed, care of Denver Studios. That's what Rossley found out. He saw the connection.
How could he find out anything about a sound engineer at the clinic?
Because Freed's a psychiatric case. He's one of the names on Rossley's notes.
How was it, sir?
Should be okay.
She looks even better than she sounds.
What made her run away?
Who knows? The main thing is we got another useful version in the can. That's my baby doll. Well, we seem to have got over our girlish nerves. All right, don't we? That was great, Annie. Just great. Harry?
Fine.
Well, it wasn't too painful, surely. Let's wet its head with a little drink, eh? Harry?
I'll catch you up, Tom.
Sam?
Quarter of an hour?
I should be getting along if you're finished with me.
Well, you're getting paid for it, aren't you? It's an hour time. Anyway, I want a little chat.
Dr. Rossley misrepresented himself to the staff here, you know. He'd no authority to look through hospital case histories.
But this man Freed is one of your patients.
Yes, he is. Mr. Harriet, it's not only dangerous for a layman to meddle with this kind of a subject on the basis of some amateur theory.
Amateur theory? It's an article in a science journal by a qualified psychiatrist. His conclusions about the effects of sound stimuli on certain people.
I've never heard of him. You must know, Mr. Harriet, that there are psychiatrists and psychiatrists.
But your patient is the sound engineer at the very recording studio that produces this disc. The disc that figured in the suicides and in Rossley's death.
As I've already said, Dr. Rossley should never have been allowed near that patient. It was, if you'll forgive me, deliberately courting danger. Quite irrespective of this theory. However, I'll look into this, of course. And in the meantime, Mr. Harriet, a request. This patient, Freed, I'm due to see him again tomorrow. He's been getting along well under my treatment. I don't want him upset. In any case, suffering as he does from the Bennett-Sloan syndrome, Freed could scarcely be the man you claim is behind all this.
Why not?
Stands to reason. If Freed were treating those records, then by your theory, he'd be the first victim.
Unless his mental condition is different to what you think.
Now you're saying I make the wrong diagnosis of patients. Really, Mr.
He
Harry?
could have a condition you don't know about.
I beg your pardon.
He could have been brainwashed. There's a number of people.
Brainwashed? By whom?
Now, if I told you that, you want to make me one of your patients.
Dr. Rossley told me about some young woman who imagined that there were brainwashed people about.
My sister-in-law.
You've got a promising voice. You're a promising girl. Maybe, just maybe, I could put a bit more of that your way, if you like.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, Daddy. Come. Where's Sam? Not coming. No? I left him working. He says he's got one on his plate. That's what I like to hear. Somebody's willing to bust a gut.
That one's busted somewhere else, if you ask me. Was he married to that turntable or what? Says if I don't stop butting my nose into his business, keep my nose out of his sound box, he'll knock me block off. What's biting him?
Don't forget it. Yeah, as I was saying, we got one or two more of these little specials in the pipeline. I'll have the other half, love.
Well, I must just make a phone call.
That's right, darling. You put him off. Tell him every drink you have with us saves him money.
Hello?
Drew? Yes, we've finished recording. Listen, Freed's working late. Listen, Drew.
He doesn't want to be interrupted, eh? I see. Look, I'm going in there. You go over to the clinic. Ask Dr. Christian to come to the studio. Tell him it's important.
Sorry, Dr. Krishna isn't available.
It's important. Will you tell him Mr. Harriet asked us?
Dr. Krishna isn't here. He's left.
Well, can you tell me where I can reach him?
I can't help you, I'm afraid. He went out about 5 minutes ago.
It's urgent.
Didn't say where.
Who's there, darling? Harry?
Mr. Freed, good evening.
What are you doing here?
I was going to ask you the same thing. What are you working on?
You've no right to walk in here, and I'm busy.
Doing what? Dubbing that latest disc you cut. What are you putting on it? A backing?
That's my business, unless you've taken over Demberley Studios.
Hey! Special birthday greetings. Does your boss know what you're really up to?
I don't get you. Up to what?
Subliminal noises, sounds, arranged to send the lucky recipient off his head?
Office? What are you raving about?
How do you pick the people to send them to?
Look, I don't know what you want, but you better get out of here. Who's that?
Dr. Christian.
What's going on?
You should be interested. Take one of those newly doped discs in the booth and test it on a patient.
I told you, Harriet, Freed is my patient. How dare you upset him?
He's out of his mind, Doctor. Barging in here, claiming I doctor discs, drive people round the bend. Well, you tell him. Tell him. Well, you look after me. You know what I do.
Freed, don't say another word. This isn't good for you. It isn't good for you at all.
But you must tell him, Doctor. You must.
Freed! You hurt me.
All right. I'll do anything you say.
You've confused him. Probably caused a retrogression.
What did he mean? You know what he does?
He's under my care.
You've got him under hypnosis.
You're making a colossal fool of him.
That's why Freed attacked Anne. Rossley called you and you set him onto her. You're the one we've been after.
Perhaps I should call the clinic, have them bring a straitjacket.
You could use your own medical files and others. You could pick and choose the doctors to attack, and you used Freed.
This is dangerous talk in front of him. He has psychopathic tendencies.
Freed couldn't hear the impulses you got him to dub onto the records because Freed walks around in a dream. You keep him that way.
Freed! This man was a danger to you. Do you hear? A danger. He wants to kill you.
Don't listen to him, Freed. He's the danger, not you. He's really mad. You can be cured. He's inhuman. His mind's laid over.
Here, Freed, protect yourself. You shouldn't have come this far, Harry.
I'm going further till all you Undermind people are discovered.
In a moment, Freed will pull that trigger. He has to.
Don't do it, Freed. You're under an influence. You don't want to kill.
It's no use, Harriet. I hold the trigger to the inner mind.
To the key, the inner circle. Victoria. Kensington.
Don't listen, Freed.
Notting Hill Gate. Bayswater.
Oh, let it be!
Bayswater, that's it, isn't it? Bayswater! Bayswater!
Please, turn it off. For God's sake, turn it off! Kill me! Kill! Turn it off! Turn it off! Turn it off! Turn it off! Turn it off!
It was Christian behind Freed all the time.
But who was behind Christian?